Okay, Agatha Christie, she wrote 6 novels under the pseudonym Mary Westmacott, and I picked up Agatha Christie's 6 Mary Westmacott novels. These are not mysteries. They are, well, in the traditional sense, they're considered romances, but not romance novels in the bodice ripper, Harlequin romance thing. Think more like Daphne du Maurier and Rebecca, that kind of thing. And they're very psychologically driven. Of course, I haven't read them all, so I can't say that with certainty. But the first one that I read is, and that's Giant's Bread, and that's the one I'm going to be talking about tonight. Giant's Bread is about a young man named Vernon Dyer, and Vernon is we see him from his birth right up until the end, and he's a very precocious young man, very curious about things, and he has this dead fear of music, which is very funny because he ends up becoming a very famous composer. And this story, it's like I said, it's very psychologically driven. There's no mystery in it that's going on. It's all about what's going on in people's heads, and there are some really nice moments in it. It was her longest novel that I've read so far, and so there is a little bit of slogging through, and there's that tendency to think that there's going to be some great mystery. Now, there are a few surprises, and she does build up suspense in interesting ways, but it's more suspense having to do with relationships and how things are going to work out. The climax of the story has Vernon going off to fight in Europe in World War I, and leaving behind a wife, and he's reported dead. And his wife opts for security and remarries soon after she finds out her husband's dead to a young American man, or actually he's a little bit older. And then a year later, Vernon, who is in Amsterdam, finds out that his wife is married, and then promptly gets into an accident and is hit by a car, hits his head, and has amnesia and cannot remember who he is. Anyone who's studied Agatha Christie's disappearance will know that she's used the amnesia story before, and it's a very fascinating, compelling sort of thing for her. And so he comes back as the chauffeur of this other American guy, and happens to end up in the same place, and realizes and slowly begins to realize as his friends help him out. There's a little bit of she does deal with the race issue in this. Vernon's best friend Sebastian is Jewish, and but she deals with it very fairly, I think, for the time period. And she's it doesn't come across. It might take a couple places in it might make a person's back get up a little bit, but I think overall she's exploring the prejudice that she saw happening among Jewish people, or with Jewish people in England at the time, because Sebastian turns out to be one of the most sympathetic, interesting characters. He's kind of the character that everyone relies on, and there's a nice little twist to the plot, a nice little kind of subplot of his love, kind of unrequited love for this really messed up, lost girl named Josephine, who goes by the name of Jo. Okay, I want to read you a quote from Giant's Bread, and it's part of a conversation that 2 women are having, and these women happen to have been the 2 most important women in Vernon's life. His wife, Nell, and his former lover, Jane. And Jane is probably the most interesting character in this, and she has the most sense and reason, and it's almost a very cold reason, and for that, because of that, all the characters are a little off-put by her. But she always speaks her mind. She's a singer. She's quite a diva. And Nell is someone who's always wanted to be pampered and cared for, and so Jane is a little bit angry for Nell for having remarried so soon after she got the news that Vernon was dead. So this is what Jane says about people's attitudes about how the dead really want us to carry on for them. "Oh, I know you're voicing the popular idea," said Jane. "The dead want us to be brave and bear up and carry on as usual. They hate us being unhappy about them. That's what everyone goes about saying. But I never have seen that there's any foundation for that cheering belief. I think they've invented it themselves to make things easier for them. The living don't all want exactly the same thing, so I don't see why the dead should either. There must be heaps of selfish dead. If they exist at all, they must be very much the same as they were in life. They can't be full of beautiful and unselfish feelings all at once. It always makes me laugh when I see a bereaved widower tucking into his breakfast the day after the funeral saying solemnly, "Mary wouldn't wish me to grieve." How does he know? Mary may simply be weeping and gnashing her teeth, astral teeth of course, at seeing him going on as usual, just as though she had never existed. Heaps of women like a fuss made over them. Why should they change their characters after they're dead? Okay, Giant's Bread, it's a very good novel, and it's a bit overlong, and I think the one criticism I have with Giant's Bread is that the pacing is rather strange. It seems to be very indulgent and long at moments when it doesn't need to be, and then when it gets to the really exciting moments, Christie seems to want to kind of hurry past them, and they all get kind of bunched up at the end. And for that reason, I can't give it a 5, but I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I think that it's a very good first attempt at writing something that's completely different from the mystery genre for her, and the characterizations are very strong, and it's got a good tragic ending, and I love tragedy. So that's it. And next time I'm going to be reviewing The Murder at the Vicarage, which I am in the process of reading now. So I'll get it probably reviewed in the next day or so. All right?